Create Your Blank, where we share stories of fascinating people who have created their blank. And we share how they got started, what inspired them on their journey, and of creating where they are today. Today, we have Edwina Woods in the studio with us, and I'm so excited to have her with us today to share her story. Welcome, Edwina.
Hey, Allison.
Hey, love. I'm so glad you're here. So please share a little bit about, I want to start first with our little background because I love our little background. So let's see, what year was
97, 98, 97.
1997. And I was founder and executive director for a nonprofit organization in Dallas that worked with teen mothers and their children. And when I first started, I had no clue what I was doing. I was a little lost in the navigating, how to make things happen and how to connect with the actual teen moms that needed services. And my ex at the time was a high school teacher, and you were teaching at that high school, right? Woodrow in Dallas. And he mentioned you and said, we've got to connect you together. And she's amazing. And all the teen moms, at the school, they need more services and more support. And that's how we met. And that's how our relationship started. I can't believe it's 1997.
You know what? When you say that, I even marvel at that because I was just finishing my first year of teaching.
Wow.
And the fact that Tony noticed me, a first-year teacher among all those veterans, I am so humbled. But then that also makes me think of the Lord's intentionality. I'm so humbled in so many. Good night. Wow. Wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, it was just amazing. And you just, I think we had coffee together or something. I don't remember, but we just hit it off and your whole heart was in it. And you were so excited to be able to support them in this way. And we started doing workshops, right? I think we just threw it out.
You know what? And Allison, I'm serious, just taking me back there, making me recall moving to Dallas and just how quickly that happened in me becoming a teacher. Because I had just moved the year before and had just barely been in Dallas a little over a year, and being a single parent, having completed college and getting it, understanding, just getting it. Wow, I'm here, I'm teaching and working with kids. I'm working in a content as an English reading teacher that I love. As a single parent, things are thriving and going. And then that door opened, being able to pour into those teen mothers. Even though I wasn't quite a teen, but I was just barely in my 20s. I was still wet and milky behind the ears myself, right? But being able already to pour into them and helping them and encouraging them in ways that I had not always received, but that came at the right time. And so, yeah. Oh my.
Yeah. It was divine, brings tears to my eyes. It's like,
it does.
You were the perfect person to support me along the way. I love it so much.
Yes.
So I'm so excited to have you on today because there's so much we want to talk about, but please share a little bit about what you currently do out in the world. And then we'll talk about how in the heck you got where today.
Yeah. So I'm currently director of program services for a ed tech company called Unbound Ed. And I work with school districts. Education is always an ever-evolving sphere. We like to refer to it as the Edu-Sphere, right? It's a whole universe of things that happen within education. And so always with the goal of looking toward how do we best serve the students that we have at this time, right? For these students at this time. So one of the major shifts in education now is what we call high quality instructional materials, HQIM. And so the goal of high quality instructional material is to use research based content by content developers with research based pedagogical high practices and putting those resources in the hands of teachers to do what they really desire to do, which is impact students' academic achievement so that kids have opportunities, right? Education opens
Mhm.
doors. And so I work alongside school districts, chief academic officers, content directors to put in the systems and the supports necessary so that teachers can do their best job, which means I also work with principals as well, right? So I get to
Mhm.
coach and be thought partners with principals to
Mhm.
support teachers. So it is super exciting to look at working with them and
Mhm.
getting them to achieve their visions for what they need for their students, the supports they need for their principals, that they need for their teachers, and taking
Mhm.
this year-long, 2-year, 3-year journey with them. It's up to them how long the journey is, but it's so humbling. So yeah, so setting in those systems for them, I get to help direct that.
Okay, so that is amazing in and of itself. And I want to talk a little bit about that because I hear from so many teachers that they're so frustrated with the system. And, the kids have this, stack of things that they have to do
Mhm,
and how to do it. And
mhm,
you're in a unique position to
mhm,
affect that.
mhm.
So, do you in your role have the opportunity to get feedback at all from the teachers?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that we definitely work with districts in doing. So like when they tradition so the old method of school districts have been adopting curriculum since there's been schools. Curriculum's always the content and the resources put forth in front of students, right? They've been doing that for years. But before it was like, here's your curriculum, go forth and conquer with no, very little 2 days of training for teachers, right? But
Yeah.
now it's a whole process. So there's a
Mhm.
process. Part of the process includes having teachers on the team, truly on the team,
Yeah.
to look at the resources. What is it that you need, teachers? What is it that you like about this? What is it that you don't like? And then they get an opportunity to truly pilot and say, this works, this doesn't work. And then school districts that really take it to a next level continue to survey teachers along the way so that,
Yeah.
halfway through they're like, so how was that experience? What else do you need from us? And blah, blah, blah. And so
Right.
it has to be that back and forth conversation between the district, like all three have to be really four, because students as well. The district, the campus leaders, teachers, and students at that table giving their input, taking that information, working out the best ways to support and moving forward. So definitely, yes, have to have input from
Mhm.
teachers who are on the
Mhm.
front lines doing the work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm,
That warms my heart because I have felt so many, not so many, but a few friends are teachers, and I have heard through the grapevine that
mhm,
they're frustrated and they're leaving the teaching profession, and they don't feel heard and they don't feel
mhm,
counted, and they're
mhm,
just, doing rote work,
mhm,
and just handing out assignments. But
mhm.
it's nice to feel and see that and know that you're on the upside of that, kind of guiding and leading and directing that whole initiative. So that's beautiful.
It is. It is super, and when I think about that, like when I work with leaders and I keep that teacher view in my, and also, having been a campus principal, I heard those from my teachers as well. And I especially heard it when I failed, right? When I
Mhm.
failed at it, but
Yeah.
I'm thankful that I failed because I wouldn't have been able to learn failing forward. And so
I
when
believe in failure. There's no failure.
it's a first attempt in learning. That's what I
There you
always say. It's
go.
a
There
first
you go.
attempt in
I
learning.
like that.
So
I
my
like
first
that.
attempt was I learned something. So I would always talk to leaders about, I keep Michael Fullan, he's a renowned researcher in education. Michael Fullan has a book called Coherence, and getting districts to narrow down their focus. So instead of going, doing a birth of things, a breadth of things shallowly, let's do a few things well. And so, and the
Mm.
thing we want to do well is instruction. So
Yeah.
how do we support the systems to do instruction and
Mhm.
everything? And then it takes, and all those other pieces come in. You do instruction well, you take care of the whole kid. You take care of their mind, you take care of building community, you take care of all the things that they need to be great productive citizens. And so I
Mhm.
really lean into let's narrow and
Mhm.
focus. So hopefully that trickles down.
Yeah, and that's a good way. I like hearing that you
Mhm.
don't try to conquer the mountain as much as you try to just do a few things well and then expand from there,
Yes,
right?
yes, very much so.
So do you what you do, do
Mhm.
you address different learning styles with different kids and try to incorporate as many different learning styles in the curriculum as you can? Because we know kids learn differently.
Mhm.
Some are visual, auditory, kinesthetic. And so do you take that into account when you're creating programs?
So the curriculum takes all of that into account. That's what we call like pedagogical practices, right? What are the pedagogical practices that teachers need to lean into at different parts and points within the lesson, right? So,
Mhm.
this is old school. Really, it's really old school. Like if I say Madeline Hunter, those of us who have been in education like more than 15 years know Madeline Hunter. She's the whole lesson cycle, right? So while she might be considered old school, her method of introduction, hook, having the lesson, having students work within that, giving feedback and closing out has not changed, right? And so in each one of those pieces, there are opportunities for teachers to lean into what would be the best way to engage students in that learning. So whether
Mhm.
it's a visual, whether it's
Mhm.
in writing, whether it's in students talking with one another, whether it's students getting up and moving around the classroom, they have to use all of those because they're going to hit different pieces of students, right? And so
Yeah.
even for even in working with adults, right? We have to take those into considerations, right? And one of the
Mhm.
strongest methods is that we are collaborative beings. We are not
Mhm.
meant to do this life alone. And so
Mhm.
the more that we can build community within the classroom and
Mhm.
places of safety, places where people can and students can voice their learning so that they can learn and give feedback on that. And adults can do
Mhm.
that, the better we
Mhm.
lean into what works for all learners.
Mhm.
And so,
Mhm.
yeah, it's that practice. We call it that tool belt. So what is it that the teacher
That's
needs to
right.
pull out of that tool belt at
Yeah.
this particular time in this lesson? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
mhm,
Good. So there's some leaning in that teachers can do into the program itself
mhm.
and kind of feel into what's going to work best for their class
Yes,
at that time with
yes.
that particular content,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
cool.
Uh-huh. And that's not it's something that I think that's probably the excitement of why educators enter. Number one, I definitely this is just my experience and from my journey through education is number one, educators enter because they love something. They either love the
Mhm.
connection with students or they love their content. Right.
Uh-huh.
And at some point in their earlier life, they were either teaching their siblings or they were teaching their pets or they were teaching their dolls. Somewhere along the line, they had already begun to practice this work. Right. And
Yeah.
then secondly, we want to do it well. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably part of the frustration is that sometimes as educators, we don't hear that we're doing a great job. But I think
Mhm.
also this is going to be unpopular. Not everybody was meant to be a teacher. So that stupid bumper sticker that says if you can't do it, then you teach? No, 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 no. You only teach if you can do it. And not just can do it, but you can relay it to younger minds, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, everybody can't do what we do. It is a
Yeah.
calling and
Yeah.
it is a gift that you have. But just like I think what people fail to realize, Allison, is that even though you have a gift or a talent, you have to develop it, right? Like
Mhm.
all the
Mhm.
athletes pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to be coached in their gift or talent.
Yeah.
Why would
Yeah.
we not, as teachers, not want to be coached so that we are our best self? Right? And
Right.
that takes both.
Right.
That means principals have to lean in. And sometimes principals don't always lean in and do the work alongside teachers. And
Mhm.
so leaning in with them and being in that growth mindset, district leaning, like from the top, we are education. We should always be
Mhm.
learning. There should not be at one point that we do not learn, because if we don't
Mhm.
and we just dictate, then we get
Yeah.
what we get and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, I could talk all day about it, but it's a community and
Yeah.
we have not always treated it as a community. You cannot stay
Yeah.
alone in the work.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
love that so much. And I love that so I think career-wise, when you like you said, some teachers shouldn't be teachers, right? And they get and I think it's important when we're creating our blank and we decide we want to be a teacher, I think it's really important to really look at it deeply,
Mhm.
superficially, and what does being a teacher really mean? What special skills do you need? What
Mhm.
special interests do you have? What, your personality, does it really fit?
Mhm.
And does it really align with your values?
Yes.
And I think that's so important because I think some people just think, oh, I'm going to be a teacher. That's going to be, easy.
It is
Right. And I
so
think
hard.
yeah, and I think it's so important to spend that time really looking at really what you want to be doing. And is
Mhm.
this really aligned with who I am
Mhm.
and
Mm.
what I want to be?
Mhm.
So along your journey,
Mhm.
you were a teacher
Mhm.
and
And then I became a district instructional specialist
uh-huh.
for English language arts. And so I was working with K through 12 teachers and their PLCs and that's so funny because when I think about that too, like I was helping them do that work as well, using their curriculum and leaning into practices and what does it make sense to do in the classroom? Because one of my beliefs, and you're right, you have to love kids. If you do
Yeah,
not love, and you don't have to love all kids.
right.
I know what grade level I can't go below, right? Right?
Right,
Like,
right,
while
right.
I love being an elementary principal, I think as a teacher, the furthest I could go would be 6th grade. That's just 6th through 12th grade. I love those jokers unbelievably. As a
Uh-huh.
principal, I love elementary teachers because their work is it is so deep and so heavy. And so I just love supporting them and the joy
Mhm.
they are there are different teachers in different grade bands.
Yeah.
Anybody will tell you that elementary teachers are different from middle school teachers.
Yes.
That are different
Yes.
from high school teachers, right? And so you have to love that.
For construction and then your path.
And then I became an assistant principal at a school, and I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed being an assistant principal because it's
Yeah.
like being like the boss without being the boss, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and you're still super close to the work, right? I was still
Mhm.
able to work super closely with teachers, being still connected with students, but then becoming the principal was like, okay, now I get to impact like systems. Like, how do I create a culture where teachers love what they do and they're treated
Mhm.
like professionals? Like, that was always my thing. Like,
Mhm.
we forget that we're professionals and we should always be learning. So my teachers do that. Like when we got together, I was going to pull some professional article. We were going to ground whatever we did in some short professional article.
Mhm.
Everything, every
Uh-huh.
move was grounded in some research because there's a gap between theory, those who do
Mhm.
educational theory,
Mhm.
and then
Mhm.
educational practice. So I was like, no, these two need to be together, right? Theory and practice
Mm.
have to be bridged together. And
Yeah.
so that was always super fun and super cool. And so my teachers who have gone on to become instructional coaches or assistant principals and
Mhm.
principals, they always come back and say, you know what? I know what you're going to say about the research, or I'm coming to you because I need this resource and stuff. So that is, and then in the work that I do now, being able to give principals and things, those and leaders, those resources as well, thinking about, hey, have you read so and so, or do you know about so and
Mhm.
so, to kind of really continue to push growing in what
Mhm.
you are called to do and stuff.
Mm.
So yeah, so then going from the district, then working at the kind of like in the regional level, like, in Texas, we have these educational service centers. So moving from serving students to serving teachers to serving principals to serving school districts to now
Wow.
serving school districts and states, my mind is blown.
Yeah. And rightfully so. And you're working on your PhD.
It's an ED, so it's an education doctorate because it's practice. I wanna do the practical part of
Okay.
application
Okay.
part of it. So that's the ED part of it.
Okay.
I just live it in the philosophical. Yeah, and I'm looking over here as I look at my stack of articles. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Working on that dissertation, rewriting chapter 1 right now.
I love it so much. And I've loved following your path and seeing you shine at your gifts.
Mm,
Your gifts shine through and
mhm.
in all that you do. And I think that's so important when we're creating our blank to let our gifts shine through and they shine and show up.
Well, and I think you cannot do a disservice to the people who are milestones in your blank, right? So like
Mm,
maybe if you think of a blank, maybe think of a blank like a beautiful necklace, right? That
mm,
has a beginning and an end on that necklace. And that
mhm,
necklace has these beautiful gems that are
mm,
spaced along it. And these
mhm.
beautiful gems are the mentors and the people that you encounter who pour into you so that you move along. And I say that to include you. Like I would not be here if you had not listened and been open to what Tony was saying and how the Lord was leading you in a way to say, hey, whatever he said to you that caused Tony to reach out to me, that allowed me to be open to be like, hey, that would be super cool. You helped me to refine who I was as a teacher. Like,
Mm,
what did it really mean? Like, education isn't just in the classroom, it's
yeah.
also outside of the classroom. And so you pouring into me and trusting me with the most vulnerable, right? And with
Mm,
girls at the most vulnerable point of their lives, right? And as they were seeking guidance and support and love, that you invited me into that process, helped me again to just refine who I was as an educator. Seeing the human in kids, that they have dreams and things happen in life, and that's not the end. It's just
right.
part of the journey. And now I get to be this milestone along their journey. So
Mm. That's so beautiful. You
like,
made me cry again.
that's the English teacher in me with all the metaphors and the imagery though. Like,
Metaphor, it's just beautiful. And it
yeah.
is
Mm-hmm.
because we have this path. And if we look at our life as the necklace
Mm-hmm.
and the jewels that, the people that we connect with and the things that happen to us or
Mm-hmm.
happen for us,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
they don't happen to us, they happen for us and they contribute to everything that we're creating in our lives. And it's so beautiful to have an awareness about that path
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's
and
so
how poetic it is.
being open, I have learned the older I get, Allison, is to be open,
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
conversations with God and in my conversations as I grow as a woman of God, I'm just open. I
Yeah.
know what I want, but
Mhm.
then he always knows what's best and has not led me astray, not one single. Now I've led me astray. I done jacked up some stuff.
Real good at that.
Right, but if I just sit back and be like, "I'm open." If I
Yeah.
wasn't open, I wouldn't be married to an amazing husband.
Oh,
I
he's
wouldn't be probably where I am in the career because I thought it should look one way, and he's like, "Yeah,
Mhm.
no, it's gonna look this way." So along
Mhm.
that journey, you may like all these, thinking of a jeweler and leaning into that metaphor about how they have like all these different gems, right? Sometimes we might have it planned to look this way, but sometimes if we're just open and we just reach and we just add, it
Mhm.
is way more beautiful than what we even could have imagined.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Gus knows I use Gus, God, universe, spirit, and he knows what our heart wants. He
Mhm.
knows what we're capable of and
Yes,
move out of our own way and
yes, he does. Yes, he
make beautiful things happen. So that's wonderful. So, what do you think is the biggest challenge for you in what you do?
mindset. It's always mindset because fear is a real thing. Fear of
Mhm.
failure. And we're afraid of failure because from what I experienced, we think somebody might make fun of us or think that we're less than capable. I could just say that also from my experience. Like I was afraid of failing, like, wow, well, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe I wasn't meant to do this. But
Mhm.
then let's go back to how I defined fail. First attempt in learning, right?
Yes.
It's amazing the grace that we give little kids when they learn stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And then we don't
Mhm.
continue to extend that grace to ourselves. Like,
Yes.
I understand we're adults, we know better, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be allowed to fail. It's a problem when we keep failing and don't take responsibility.
Yes.
Or
Yes.
we take or if we fail or we don't realize we're failing or failing those around us, right? Like, I'm
Mm.
not here to just serve Edwina. I'm here to serve those who the Lord puts in my path. So maybe,
Um,
failing them some kind of way like, "Dang, okay, I might not have done that correctly. Let me back up and go do that again."
mhm.
So I'm
Mhm.
I'm just gonna say it's fear of failure
Yeah.
and that we don't give
Yeah.
each other grace to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always say, feel the fear and do it anyway. And I think it was the name of a book years ago, but it's followed me ever since. And I do that. I'm always afraid. And if I let that run the show, I wouldn't be doing anything. But we got to feel it. We got to acknowledge it. We got to respect the fear and know that it's our little human selves.
Mm-mm.
But Gus is way bigger than us,
And
you know?
and that's so funny you said because when I just told you in our off-camera conversation, I had just come from visiting mama
Yeah.
and talking to her about fear at this point in time in her life, right? And as believers, as Christians, it's like so tell me who didn't experience fear in the Bible, but they moved because they trusted
Yeah.
God. So
Yeah.
that's the thing is to move and it will be provided. You just
Yes.
have to
Trust.
move. Someone is sent, something is sent, something happens along the way where it's like, okay, all right then. Well, Lord, look at you. So yes, just move and
Yeah.
it will
It's
move.
mood.
Yeah.
Just take one step. And I encourage everybody watching, if they're creating their blank,
One
just take the one step. And then the next step will be guided, and the next step will be guided, So just like us, look at us.
like this dissertation, one step. I'm looking at the calendar over here that I've have out, and I was like, it's broken down into steps. I'm like, okay, one step. That's all I got to
Yeah,
complete today is
that's
one
right.
step. And then tomorrow's the next step. And
Yeah. And then breathe. Breathe through it. Be aware. Present
be present. Yes.
with the right now. What do I need to do right now to
Yes.
support whatever it is we're creating, right?
Mhm.
Whatever we want to show up in the world.
Mhm. Yeah, that's the same thing I tell my daughters too. Yes, yes.
We could
Mm.
go all day.
We
We could go
can.
all day, but I want to thank you so much for joining me. What words of wisdom do you have
Mm,
for the collective who are watching that are creating their blank
mm,
and they're feeling stuck?
mm.
And we may have mentioned it already, but I want to end with this in a powerful way,
Mm.
some words of wisdom.
You know what? Is as you were saying that, because like before you said that the last thing I said was my girls, right? And so one daughter by birth, one bonus daughter, and actually two more bonus daughters from my time as probably more than two as an educator, right? So really four daughters. And in each one of them, even though they're in their 30s, having been with them since they were babies or teenagers, and as they are creating and living within their blank, the advice I consistently give is to, like you just said, just stop, breathe, and be
Mhm.
present. And I share with them, I can only tell you what I know, right?
Mhm.
This is what
Mhm.
Edwina did, and
Mhm.
this is what has worked and sustained me. So they
Mhm.
know my belief in the Lord. And a verse that comes up is that we are his workmanship,
Mhm.
right? Created in
Mhm.
Christ Jesus for good works. Just
Mhm.
stop and breathe. You
Mhm.
are a workmanship created
Ooh,
for good works.
mm,
What does that look like? And so when you
workmanship.
stop
I
and
love that.
breathe, you just take yourself out of it. You kind of calm down.
Yeah.
And then the power of just writing sometimes.
Oh, that's always good.
Just write it. Once you breathe, calm down. All of my
Mhm.
girls journal some kind
Yeah.
of way. they journal. Well, however that
Mhm.
looks for you, it looks different
Yep.
for everyone. Those
Yes.
are my 2 pieces. Those
Yeah.
2. I can only tell you what I know. We are his
Uh-huh.
workmanship
Uh-huh.
and to journal.
Beautiful.
Because when you journal, Allison, you get to go back and see.
You get to process your little human self. You
Yes,
get to process all your feelings,
yes, yes.
all the things that are in your heart without judgment.
And to see that you overcame. You
Yeah.
overcame. You
Yeah. Look.
did not die in that failing.
Right.
So,
Right.
that's so those.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. So, thank you so much for joining me today. We could go on all day.
Yes.
And it was so wonderful having you and learning about where you are today and what you're working on.
Mm.
And if people want to reach out to you or if they have questions, how would they connect with you?
Man, really? So it depends, right? There are 2 different ways. So professionally connecting with me would definitely be on LinkedIn, Edwina
Okay.
Woods. You'll find me on LinkedIn. And then like on a personal level, I'm always posting things that I'm like reading or listening to or
Cool.
scriptures that inspire and speak to me. You can always find me on Facebook at Edwina Woods
Okay.
too. So those are
Cool.
2 ways to connect, whether you want to do it personally or professionally.
Okay, cool. And we could put those connections in the show notes as well.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, that's a wrap for today. If you enjoyed this segment, feel free to add comments as we'd love to hear from you and support you.
Yeah.
And if you'd like to receive notifications of future episodes, please click that subscribe button. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we wish you a beautiful
Woo.
day. Thank you for watching.